Have you ever really thought about how that sandwich you had for lunch becomes the actual energy that powers your brain? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to get into, your body's incredible energy budget. We'll follow the journey from food to fuel right down to the cellular level. And then we're going to zoom all the way out to see how the experts check if the whole system is running like it should. Let's do it.
It's one of those things we just take for granted, right? But the answer is this amazing biological dance that's happening inside you at this very moment. And it all kicks off with one absolutely crucial molecule. Okay, so let's meet the star of the show, ATP. The easiest way to think of these is as billions of tiny, rechargeable batteries floating around inside your cells. Literally, everything your body does, from blinking your eyes to your heart beating, is powered by the energy that gets released from these little guys. Your body's number one job, really, is to keep these batteries charged. Look, at its core, your body is always managing a really simple budget: energy in versus energy out. When you eat, you're putting your body in a positive balance. You're providing the fuel. And when you're just living your life, working, walking, even sleeping, you're using that fuel, which puts you in a negative balance. Over time, your body tries to keep things pretty steady to maintain your weight. So where does all that energy actually go? Now, this is what I find fascinating. Look at that huge chunk taken up by your resting metabolism. A full 70% of your daily energy is just spent keeping the lights on. That's powering your brain, pumping your blood, and repairing your cells. That workout you did this morning, that's just a little piece of that smaller 20% chunk. So, we know we need the energy. We get it. But how in the world do we get it from, say, a piece of fruit into those tiny little ATP batteries? Well, let's follow the journey of a simple carbohydrate. Believe it or not, the process kicks off the very second that food enters your mouth. You have enzymes in your saliva that immediately start breaking down complex carbs into simpler sugars. And that job just continues in the stomach and intestines until you're left with these basic sugars, like glucose, which is small enough to be absorbed directly into your bloodstream. And this is where things get really interesting and kind of tricky. Your brain absolutely demands a constant, steady supply of glucose to work properly. But if your blood glucose levels get too high, that same life-giving molecule becomes toxic and starts damaging your tissues. So your body is constantly walking this biological tightrope. So who's in charge of this incredible balancing act? Well, it's managed by two key players. It's this beautifully choreographed dance between the fuel itself, glucose, and its master regulator, a hormone called insulin. Okay, so right after a meal, as all that glucose from your food starts entering your bloodstream, your pancreas gets the signal and releases insulin. You can think of insulin as a traffic cop. Its main job is to direct that glucose out of the blood and shuttle it into the cells that need immediate energy, or to direct it into storage for later. Now, a major destination for all this glucose is your liver. Your liver is like a master fuel processing plant. It takes up glucose and converts it into a storage form called glycogen. But here's the catch. It can only store so much. Any extra glucose, and another sugar you've probably heard of, fructose, gets converted into fat. So that newly made fat has to go somewhere, right? Much of it gets stored right under your skin. That's called subcutaneous fat. It's the stuff you can pinch. But some of it gets stored deeper inside, wrapped around your vital organs in your abdomen. That's visceral fat. And because it can actually release inflammatory compounds, it's considered a much more serious risk factor for your health. Okay, let's just pause for a second. We've gone super deep, right? Down into the nitty-gritty of molecules, cells, and hormones. But how do we, zoom back out? How can we actually get a sense of whether this whole incredibly complex system is properly nourished and working the way it should? Well, as you can imagine, health professionals have a whole toolkit for this very thing. And let me tell you, it's about way more than just stepping on a scale. It's a really smart, multifaceted approach to get a complete picture of a person's nutritional health. And to get that full picture, experts often use a framework you can remember as ABCDE F V. Now, I know that looks like a lot, but don't worry. We're just going to quickly breeze through what each letter stands for so you can see how all these pieces actually fit together.
All right, first up, A is for anthropometry. That's just a fancy word for measuring the human body. This is your basic height and weight, but it also includes things like skin fold thickness, which is measured with a special caliper. And boom, there's the connection. This measurement gives us a direct estimate of that subcutaneous fat we were just talking about.
Next, B is for biochemical tests. This is your lab work. A simple blood test, for instance, can check your iron levels and tell you what's really going on inside. Then you have C for clinical signs. This is where a doctor's physical exam and trained eye come into play. They can spot visible clues of a deficiency, like specific spots on the eyes that might point to a lack of vitamin A.
D is for dietary assessment. To figure out what someone is actually eating, a really common tool is the 24-hour recall. And it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. A trained professional will carefully guide someone through remembering everything they ate and drank over the past day. E brings us to ecological factors, which is just a recognition that we don't eat in a vacuum, right? Things like a person's income, where they live, even their access to a grocery store, all of it can have a massive impact on their nutritional health. It's about seeing the bigger picture.
Finally, we have F for functional tests. This checks if your body can properly do its job. For example, they can test how well your eyes adapt to the dark to measure your vitamin A status. And V is for vital statistics. This is the 30,000-foot view, tracking the rates of nutrition-related diseases across an entire population to spot widespread trends.
Whew, okay. We've covered a lot of ground here, right? We've gone from the tiniest battery in our cells all the way up to population-level health data. So let's tie this all together. So here is the key takeaway. Understanding your nutritional health really means having a kind of dual vision. It's about appreciating the incredible microscopic world of ATP and insulin, while also using simple macroscopic tools, everything from a measuring tape to a blood test, to check on the health of the entire system. Every single day, through its energy levels, its physical signs, and how well it just works, your body is telling you its story. The real question is, now that you know a little bit more about the language it's speaking, are you better equipped to listen?